Hey all, welcome back to Real Estate Uncovered, episode number 12. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about furnaces and a major defect known as a cracked heat exchanger and how you should proceed as a buyer if that defect is found. I also want to talk to you guys a little bit about how you should proceed as buyers if your home inspector cannot inspect the furnace heat exchanger because there's no inspection port. There's a few other things that we're going to go over as well, but first up, let's get into a video that I took a couple weeks back during an inspection where I discovered a cracked heat exchanger. All right guys, old furnace, any furnace, old or new, you're always wanting to check the heat exchanger out. Look what I found on this old guy here. Look at the size of that crack right there in that heat exchanger. So this furnace is going to be a throwaway. All right, as you guys can see there was a pretty large crack in that heat exchanger. Now that was an old Flame Master furnace, and those old Flame Master furnaces are really bad for cracked heat exchangers. I want to just pop a still frame image up here quickly for a heat exchanger that was cracked that I inspected just a couple weeks back as well. However, it was a newer furnace. I'm not going to say brand new, but it was definitely newer, probably about 20 years old. And let's pop that up here now. As you guys can see there, I'm pointing my little red arrows there to that hairline crack on that dimple. Now those dimples on that style of heat exchanger are there to increase surface area, and as you all know, when you bend metal, it compromises the integrity of the metal, and that's why that particular type of heat exchanger cracks at that location. So as you can see, different style of heat exchanger, much newer furnace than that video I showed you, that Flame Master, and you can have cracked heat exchangers whether furnaces are new or old. Okay, so what does a cracked heat exchanger mean? It typically means that there is a possibility or there is potential for carbon monoxide to get mixed in with the forced air that's going to be pushed out your heat registers throughout your home. So there's potential for carbon monoxide poisoning, fatality, personal injury, whatever you want to call it. How should you handle a cracked heat exchanger if you are a buyer that is trying to buy a house and your home inspector finds it, or a plumber for that matter, whoever is doing the inspection? How should you handle it? Well, 99% of the time, a cracked heat exchanger is going to mean complete replacement on the furnace. In my experience, very few furnaces are they able to get parts for in regards to this. I'm not saying that I haven't seen it. I've definitely seen a few furnaces where they were able to get parts and they were just able to swap the heat exchanger out, which costs a lot less than replacing the furnace. But in my experience, 99% of the time, if your home inspector or a plumber finds a cracked heat exchanger, it's going to mean replacement. And furnaces nowadays are typically running between that $5,000 to $6,500 range, and that's an expensive bill to pick up, which means it's a major defect. Okay guys, now that I've taught you a little bit about heat exchangers and the cracks that potentially could be there, I want to teach you guys a little bit about a situation that some of us home inspectors run into on a regular basis actually. Some furnaces don't actually have an inspection port on the furnace plenum so that you can remove the inspection cover plate, and then there's a hole there on the plenum so that you can see into the plenum and see the heat exchanger, possibly the A coil, which is for the air conditioner if the home has air conditioning. Some furnaces don't have that on the plenum, and I'm going to show you an image here right now. I'm going to pop this up there. As you can see there, got my two red arrows pointing to where the inspection port should be. Now I did this inspection a couple months back, and in this situation, all of my clients will get a recommendation in the report to get a plumber, to hire a plumber and bring them in and to cut a hole in the plenum and inspect the heat exchanger because it's such an important defect if it is there. Now lastly guys, I want to show you guys a video of an inspection that I literally did yesterday. And it's in regards to a really funny situation. It's actually very comical because there have been situations in my career, and not just one or two, like we're talking quite a few situations, where I will go to inspect a furnace and I will see an inspection cover plate on the plenum, and I will remove the cover plate and there's no hole behind it, which means whoever built that furnace plenum and whoever built the cover plate got lazy and didn't actually want to cut the hole into the plenum so that people could actually see in it. And so let's cut away to that video here now. You guys are gonna have a good laugh. Okay, so here's a good example of an inspection port on a furnace plenum here. So I just pulled the screws, and as you can see, somebody forgot to cut the hole. Lastly guys, I just want to tell you a quick story that happened. It has to be close to 10 years ago now. But I was doing an inspection on a house and I encountered a furnace that didn't have an inspection port on it. And like I told you guys earlier in the video, my clients get a recommendation as well as a verbal at the consult at the house. I tell my clients, hey, I can't inspect this important area of the furnace. Let's get a plumber in and have him cut a hole, and either I can come back and inspect it or he can inspect it. He can inspect it just as well as I can. And I always tell my clients to do this. However, about 10 years ago approximately, I had this situation where I did an inspection. This was the exact situation. There was no inspection port, so I couldn't inspect that heat exchanger. The realtor actually showed up to the house early, about 10 minutes before the clients did. Came into the house, asked me how it went. I told him it didn't go too bad, other than the fact that I wasn't able to inspect the heat exchanger because there was no port. And that realtor, who is retired now, at that time, though, they looked at me and said, well, you don't really need to tell them that, do you? And I said, well, of course I do. I mean, even though I can't inspect it, I still need to provide disclosure. I still need to provide that restriction and limitation to them, and I need to give them the information so that they can make a conscious choice at whether or not they want to spend a little bit of extra money to get a plumber in to cut the hole and make sure that this heat exchanger isn't cracked. Basically, what I'm getting at here with this quick little story about that is don't let people push you around in regards to this. If you encounter a situation where that heat exchanger cannot be inspected during your home inspection, spend the money, you guys. It's only about $100 to $150 to get a plumber out to come out, cut that hole in there, and then verify that that heat exchanger actually isn't cracked. So don't let a realtor push you around. And don't let anybody else push you around either, because I have encountered the odd seller here and there that says, no, you're not cutting a hole in my plenum. And in that situation, my clients just typically walk away. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I did an inspection in Regina, Saskatchewan, and that was exactly the case. The seller denied the buyers the ability to get a plumber in and cut a hole in that plenum. And they just said, well, if they're going to do that, they're obviously trying to hide something. So they walked away. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode 12. It was a little different than some of the previous episodes that we've done. I really wanted to get into educating you guys about a really serious defect that can be found on furnaces. As always, knowledge is power, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.